Right now, you probably have at least 2 or 3 habit tracking apps on your phone.
Oh, yeah. Probably more, if we're being honest.
Right. You've likely tried the 5 a.m. wake-up routines or, you've dabbled in the cold plunges.
Oh, the cold plunges are everywhere right now.
They really are. And you've tried to optimize your macros, and you've probably listened to just countless hours of advice on how to, hack your productivity.
It's a whole industry.
Exactly. We are living in an era where we basically treat ourselves like fixer-upper houses.
Yeah.
And the underlying assumption here, which is so deeply baked into our culture that we don't even really question it anymore, is that you, as you exist right in this very second, are a project.
You're something broken.
Yes, you are something broken that needs constant aggressive renovation. But what if the data and, millennia of philosophical thought suggests that this very behavior is actually the problem?
It's completely counterintuitive to how we live today.
It is. What if the harder you tried to forcefully mold yourself into some, idealized version of who you think you should be, the more anxious, burnt out, and fundamentally stuck you become?
I mean, it really is the defining psychological paradox of our time.
Yeah.
We have literally never been more obsessed with fixing ourselves. We have never had more tools and metrics at our disposal to track our progress.
So many metrics. Sleep scores, step counts.
Exactly.
Uh,
And yet, clinical rates of anxiety and that profound, lingering sense of inner emptiness are just completely off the charts.
wow.
We're basically approaching our own minds as if they are hostile enemy territories, places that need to be conquered, civilized and brought into line.
Right.
And that constant state of internal warfare isn't just exhausting. It fundamentally fails to produce the happiness it promises.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because this disconnect is exactly what drove us into the stack of sources we are exploring for today's deep dive.
And is a really fascinating stack of material.
It really is. We are unpacking a collection of ancient philosophical and spiritual texts that tackle this exact problem, but they approach it from an angle that feels incredibly disruptive today.
Very disruptive.
They explore this collision between our relentless human effort, the concept of divine grace, or universal will, selfless love, and the massive gap between knowing a truth intellectually and actually experiencing it in your bones.
Yeah, that gap is huge.
And what's crucial here is that these aren't just abstract, esoteric musings meant for a monastery, right?
No, not at all.
These are aggressive, practical blueprints for completely dismantling the weight of your own self-criticism.
I actually think the visual language within these texts is quite helpful for setting the stage here.
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
Well, if you look at the metaphors they use, you constantly see this transition from the vast, complex, and uncontrollable...
Cosmos.
Right, like massive shifting star charts or the spinning mechanics of the universe, and then it dissolves downward into incredibly grounded, quiet nature landscapes.
A tree, a still pond, things like that.
Exactly.
Hmm.
That visual transition is the exact psychological journey they're trying to guide you through.
Taking you away from the anxiety.
Yes, taking you away from the dizzying, spinning anxiety of trying to micromanage your destiny and dropping you into the rooted, quiet reality of simply being alive in the present moment.
Wow. I feel like we have to start right where the texts start, which is establishing a tension that is going to make a lot of overachievers incredibly uncomfortable.
Oh, it definitely will.
Because on one side of the rope, you have human effort. Your 5-year plans, your daily grind, your sheer willpower.
It's a hustle.
The hustle, exactly. And on the other side, there is this immense concept of divine grace or destiny or whatever you want to call the ultimate physics of the universe.
Right?
And the sources draw a very hard line in the sand here. They state unequivocally that no matter how meticulously a person plans their life, the final outcome rests entirely in the hands of the one by whose will the universe operates.
They do not mince words.
No, they don't. They basically say humans make the plans, but the ultimate decision belongs to something far bigger than you.
Which is a profound, almost violent leveling of the modern human ego.
Oh, yeah.
When our hyper-individualistic brains hear something like, the final outcome rests in other hands, the immediate physiological response is rejection.
We hate that idea.
We hate it because we've been culturally conditioned to believe that we are the absolute masters of our fate.
If you fail, it's your fault.
Exactly. If you fail, it's because you didn't wake up early enough or you didn't hustle hard enough.
We really want to believe that if we just spreadsheet our lives meticulously enough and if we account for every single variable, we can build this fortress where nothing unexpected or painful will ever happen.
Right. And from an evolutionary psychology standpoint, it makes total sense why we do this.
Oh, because of survival.
Yeah, our brains are prediction machines. They crave certainty because for our ancestors, uncertainty usually meant death.
Oh, wow.
So we cling to the illusion of control as this deep survival mechanism. But these texts are pointing out a fundamental law of physics for the soul, which is you simply cannot control everything.
Right.
And the relentless, white-knuckled attempt to do so is generating massive amounts of unnecessary suffering. The texts actually highlight the futility of this control by pointing to the two heaviest realities of the human experience.
Love and death.
Exactly, love and death.
They specifically single those two out, which I found fascinating.
They do, because they are the ultimate humblers. The sources explicitly state that love and death will only come in their own time.
You can't force them.
No, you cannot optimize your way into a genuine soul-shaking romance.
Right.
And despite all the tech billionaires currently pouring, millions of dollars into longevity research, you cannot biohack your way out of mortality.
You're going to die eventually.
We all are. Trying to force what is inherently beyond your jurisdiction is like trying to catch the wind in a net. It is a fundamental misallocation of your life's energy.
But, and this is important, the texts don't just leave you in a state of hopeless nihilism, right?
No, they don't.
They pivot immediately with a very specific directive, which is human effort begins the journey, but divine wisdom completes it.
That's the key.
Let's try to visualize this mechanism because the balance between effort and surrender is tricky. I was thinking it feels a bit like driving a car with a GPS navigation system.
Oh, I like that.
So as the driver, you represent human effort. You possess absolute control over the steering wheel, the accelerator, and the brakes.
Right, you're the one in the seat.
Yeah, you make the active decision to get in the car, punch in the destination, and merge onto the highway.
Because you are initiating momentum. You aren't just sitting passively in your driveway expecting the universe to magically teleport you to your destination.
Right, exactly. But the moment you merge onto that highway, you are instantly at the mercy of millions of variables you cannot touch.
Oh, yeah.
You can't control the sudden multi-car pileup 3 miles ahead. You can't control the flash flood that washes out the bridge or, the erratic behavior of the driver in the lane next to you.
Right.
All of those external, uncontrollable variables represent the divine will or the unpredictable nature of the cosmos. But if I'm playing devil's advocate here,
Right.
if I know that the universe might just throw a massive detour at me that completely ruins my arrival time, why should I even bother gripping the steering wheel so tightly?
Why not just let go?
Yeah. Why not just coast and see where the wind takes me?
Well, because if you take your hands off the wheel at 60 miles an hour, you are going to crash into a median before the journey even gets interesting.
That's a good point.
You are confusing the relinquishing of the outcome with the relinquishing of the action.
Ah, okay.
The text addresses this beautifully. It advises against chasing what destiny will bring, meaning the final destination, and instead urges you to chase wisdom, purpose, and self-improvement.
So the focus shrinks down to the interior of the car.
Yes. You focus entirely on the quality of your driving. You control your awareness, your patience when the detour happens, your daily actions.
Right, how you react to the traffic.
Exactly. You navigate the roadblocks with grace rather than road rage. You trust that the effort of steering itself is the point of the journey, and you let life unfold the arrival time.
Okay, I follow the logic there. You focus on the steering, you let the universe handle the traffic. But this brings up a massive glaring contradiction in our source material that actually stopped me in my tracks when I was reading it.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Well, you just quoted a text saying we need to chase self-improvement. But if we look at a different manuscript from the exact same philosophical tradition, it completely dismantles the entire concept of self-improvement.
It really does.
It calls it a trap.
Yeah.
So how do we reconcile that? Wait a minute. One source just told us to chase self-improvement, but another source entirely dismantles it. Here's where it gets really interesting.
It seems contradictory on the surface, but it's actually a progression in spiritual maturity.
Okay, explain that.
It is moving from a beginner's framework to a much more advanced, radical realization about human nature.
Because the critique in the second text is brutal. It suggests that our relentless desire to improve ourselves doesn't actually come from a place of health or ambition.
No.
It stems from a deeply toxic, hidden, foundational belief, which is simply, I am not good enough.
which forces us to interrogate the underlying motivation of all our actions.
Right.
The text is pointing out a psychological reality. When you embark on a massive self-improvement crusade, say you decide to overhaul your entire personality, your body, your habits.
Like New Year's resolutions on steroids.
Exactly. And you do it because you fundamentally loathe the person you currently are. You are operating from a place of profound self-rejection.
Wow.
That hidden deficit breeds inner conflict. It creates a baseline of guilt, it fuels constant comparison to everyone around you, and it is entirely rooted in fear.
So you are basically declaring war on your own psyche.
And you cannot hate yourself into a version of yourself that you love.
Let me just repeat that. You cannot hate yourself into a version of yourself that you love. That is powerful.
It is psychologically impossible. The aggression you use to fix yourself becomes the very anxiety that keeps you feeling broken.
That makes so much sense.
The source argues that true, lasting transformation never comes from forcing change through sheer combative willpower. It comes from a totally different mechanism called awareness.
I want to spend some real time on this concept of awareness.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the modern mindfulness movement has watered this word down to the point where it just means taking a deep breath when you're stressed.
Oh, absolutely. It's become a buzzword.
But the awareness defined in these texts is much more radical. It's described as a silent, non-judgmental observation of yourself.
It is the complete suspension of the inner critic. Let's look at the neurobiology of this for a moment.
Okay.
Typically, when a negative emotion arises, let's say deep, sudden jealousy, because a coworker got a promotion you wanted, your amygdala fires up.
Right. Fight or flight.
Your brain perceives a threat to your status, and you instantly react. You either act out, maybe by making a passive-aggressive comment.
Which just fuels the emotion.
Exactly. Or you repress it. You tell yourself, I am a good, evolved person. I shouldn't be jealous. And you shove it down into the basement of your psyche.
Which requires a massive amount of mental energy. You are actively wrestling the emotion.
Exactly. Both expression and repression are active engagements. You are wrestling the pig in the mud.
I love that analogy.
Well, awareness is refusing to get in the mud.
Okay.
It is observing the jealousy arise, noticing the physiological sensations, the tightness in your chest, the heat in your face, without trying to justify why you are jealous, and crucially, without condemning yourself for feeling it.
You aren't saying I am a terrible person for being jealous.
Right. You are simply noting jealousy is present in this organism right now.
That creates a gap, doesn't it?
A massive gap between stimulus and response. You are stepping back and becoming the silent witness to the mechanics of your own mind.
Let's ground this in a physical space for the listener.
Sure.
If you're listening, think of your mind as a deeply messy room. There are clothes thrown everywhere, half-empty coffee cups on the nightstand, piles of unopened mail.
A very relatable room.
Right, and it is pitch black in this room. Your normal state of being, without awareness, is basically stumbling around in the dark.
Yeah.
You stub your toe on the bed frame, you knock over the cold coffee, you are tripping over shoes, and you're getting increasingly furious and exhausted.
That frustration, that flailing in the dark, is the exact inner conflict we just talked about.
Right, so you decide you need to improve. But because you are still in the dark, your version of improvement is just violently throwing clothes in the general direction of the closet or like kicking the trash out of the way.
You are expending huge amounts of energy, but the room is still fundamentally chaotic.
Exactly. Now, what these texts are proposing is that you stop fighting the mess in the dark. You simply walk over to the wall and flip the light switch.
And that light is awareness.
That light is awareness.
And we have to be very clear about what the light does and doesn't do here.
Yes. Turning on the light does not magically fold your laundry. The room is still a total disaster. The coffee is still spilled. But the difference is you stop tripping over the furniture. You can finally see the mess clearly.
But here is where the philosophy really challenges us. If I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, okay, the light is on, I see the mess, now I need to clean it up.
Right.
Doesn't the text suggest that just observing the mess without aggressively fixing it will lead to stagnation? Won't I just sit in a messy room forever?
I was just going to ask that because my instinct, if I see the mess, is to immediately start scrubbing. If I just observe my jealousy or, say, my tendency to snap at my partner when I'm stressed without actively trying to suppress it or fix it, doesn't that just mean I'm giving myself permission to be a jerk?
It is the most common fear people have when they encounter this philosophy.
Oh, I'm sure.
We are terrified that our inner critic is the only thing keeping us from devolving into terrible people.
Like, without it, we'd just be monsters.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But the texts provide a counterintuitive answer here. The silent observation itself is the catalyst for transformation.
How does that work?
When you shine the light of awareness on an ignorant or harmful habit, you actually starve it of the unconscious energy it needs to survive.
Walk me through that. How does observation starve the habit?
Let's use your example of snapping at your partner. Usually when that anger arises, you get swept away in the current of it. You become the anger.
Right.
But if you have practiced awareness, the moment the trigger happens, the light turns on. You feel the heat rising in your chest. You recognize the impulse to say something sharp. But because you are observing it rather than identifying with it, you don't actually speak.
You just hold the space.
You just watch the physical sensation of anger peak. And then, because you aren't feeding it with a narrative about how annoying your partner is, the anger naturally dissipates. It literally runs out of fuel.
So you didn't fight the anger. You didn't suppress it. You just watched it burn itself out.
Precisely. And over time, the neural pathways that automatically trigger that snapping response begin to weaken because they aren't being used.
Wow.
The understanding that comes from watching your own mind naturally creates the change. You realize, oh, I don't snap because I'm actually angry at them. I snap because I'm terrified of being overwhelmed.
And once you see that,
Once that truth is illuminated, the unnecessary suffering disappears naturally, not by force.
the text puts it so beautifully. It says,
Okay.
a person who is constantly trying to become something lives in the future. A completely aware person lives in the present.
It's so true.
So if you're listening, think about a flaw you've been at war with for years. Maybe it's your procrastination. Think about the sheer mental load, the exhaustion of constantly berating yourself every time you put off a task.
It's exhausting.
What if the next time the urge to procrastinate hits, you don't fight it and you don't shame yourself? You just sit there, turn on the light, and observe the physical discomfort and the fear that is driving the procrastination.
You might find that the urge loses its grip on you just by being seen.
Yeah, peace begins when you stop fighting your own mind. That is the core promise of these sources.
It really is the foundation of everything that follows.
So if awareness is the ultimate mechanism, if turning on the light is how we stop the internal war, how do we practice this? Because this isn't something you just conceptualize once and you're cured.
Right, definitely not. It's a lifelong practice.
Right. And the texts point to two massive defining human arenas where this practice is forged: meditation and true love.
And I think it's vital to note here that they define both of these concepts in ways that deeply challenge our current cultural narratives.
Absolutely. Let's start with meditation. If you look at the modern wellness industry, meditation has basically been co-opted as just another self-improvement biohack.
Yes.
It's sold to us as an additive process. Like, sit on this cushion for 15 minutes a day so you can lower your cortisol, increase your focus, crush your sales targets, and build a newer, shinier, more zen version of your ego.
It has essentially become a tool for the ego to acquire more spiritual merit.
Exactly. But the sources we are looking at completely invert that idea, they state. Meditation is not about becoming someone new. It is about removing the layers of ego, fear, and illusion to discover your true self.
It is a process of subtraction.
Subtraction,
I
yeah.
have to understand why the ego is there in the first place. Throughout our lives, starting in childhood, we build these psychological layers to protect ourselves.
Right, coping mechanisms.
Yeah. We develop a persona to be loved by our parents. We build defensive mechanisms to avoid being bullied. We adopt societal definitions of success to feel safe.
It's like wearing heavy armor.
These layers of conditioning are heavy, restrictive armor. Meditation, in the classical sense, is not about polishing that armor. It is the deliberate, often uncomfortable process of taking the armor off.
You are sitting in the quiet, watching your brain throw up all these anxieties and desires, and instead of engaging with them, you just observe them passing by.
Right.
You are chipping away at the illusion that you are your thoughts.
You are dismantling the I that you've constructed, and you discover that beneath all the anxieties, beneath the need to impress people, your fundamental nature is already whole and at peace.
So you aren't building peace, you are excavating it.
Beautifully put, yes.
Which leads to this incredible parallel the text draws. It says, true peace comes from knowing yourself, and true love begins when the ego ends.
It's a profound connection.
The texts position meditation and love as requiring the exact same mechanism, the death of the self-centered I.
Which is terrifying for most people.
It is terrifying,
Yeah.
especially because of how we are conditioned to view love. If you watch any romantic movie or, listen to any pop song, love is almost always framed as an acquisition.
Yes, it is transactional.
Exactly. It's the idea that you are walking around with a missing piece and you find a partner who completes you. You add them to your life to increase your overall value and happiness.
We approach relationships with a hidden mental spreadsheet.
We totally do.
We have a script for how a partner needs to behave to soothe their own insecurities. I need you to be ambitious so I feel financially safe. Or, I need you to be constantly affectionate so I feel worthy.
And when they deviate from the script, we panic. We get angry and we try to manipulate them back into the role we assigned them.
Right.
But that isn't love. That is hostage taking.
It is the ego trying to control the external world to manage its internal anxiety.
But the sources define love entirely differently. The text says, true love is not about possession or expectation, but about selfless surrender and unconditional acceptance.
Again, subtraction.
It is subtraction. It's what happens when you completely drop the script.
If you have used awareness to peel back your own ego, you realize you are already whole. You don't need another person to complete you.
Right.
From that place of immense internal security, you can look at your partner with all their flaws, their weird habits, their baggage, and you don't feel the urge to renovate them.
You just accept them.
You just accept them entirely as they are. That selfless surrender is considered the highest expression of a liberated life because it frees you from the exhausting labor of trying to manage someone else's reality.
It's turning on the light in the messy room of your relationship.
Exactly.
You see the spilled coffee, you see the clothes on the floor, but you aren't frantically yelling at them in the dark to clean it up. You just exist together in the light.
And we should clarify here because this is often misunderstood. Unconditional acceptance does not mean staying in a toxic or abusive situation.
Oh, definitely not.
Awareness gives you the absolute clarity to see if a relationship is fundamentally damaging. But because the ego is removed, you can observe that incompatibility and walk away with clear boundaries rather than getting trapped in a cycle of hateful, ego-driven conflict.
Right, you remove the delusion from the dynamic.
Yes.
Okay, so we've mapped out this incredible journey. We've established the tension between our effort and the universe's ultimate control. We've replaced toxic self-improvement with radical, non-judgmental awareness. And we've seen how that awareness dismantles the ego in both meditation and love.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. But the natural question that follows is, where is this all leading? Once you strip all of this away, what is the ultimate destination?
Well, you are left with the unvarnished truth of reality. But the texts are highly precise about this. They don't just point to the truth. They map out two distinct, sequential phases of interacting with that ultimate reality.
And this introduces two Sanskrit concepts that I want to make sure we really understand because they are the hinge of the entire philosophy.
Right.
Tattvajnana and Brahmajnana. Am I pronouncing this correct?
Yes, Tattvajnana and Brahmajnana.
Okay, let's break those down.
Let's look at the etymology. Tattva roughly translates to thatness, or the true principles of reality.
Thatness, okay.
And jhana means knowledge. So Tattvajnana is the knowledge of truth.
Got it.
The texts define it as understanding the mechanics of the universe, the nature of the mind, and the philosophical principles through deep inquiry, study, and contemplation.
So it is the intellectual grasping of the concepts.
Exactly.
It is reading the source texts we have today, understanding the neurobiology of awareness we just talked about, and logically seeing how the ego creates suffering. It is basically having a perfect conceptual map.
Yes. It is vital preparation. It is the path. But it is not the destination.
Right.
The second phase is Brahmajnana. Brahma refers to the absolute, the ultimate, expansive reality of the universe.
So Brahmajnana is the knowledge of the ultimate.
Exactly. But it's defined as the direct experiential realization of that supreme reality. It is the moment where the illusion of separation collapses, and you personally experience the unity between your individual self and the cosmos.
Okay, the leap from intellectual knowledge to direct realization. Let's co-construct an analogy here to make this tangible, because otherwise it just sounds like esoteric jargon.
That's a good idea.
Let's use the idea of traveling to Paris. Tafa Jana is like obsessively studying Paris from your apartment in New York.
Right. You read every historical biography of the city. You study the street maps of the arrondissements until you have them memorized.
Yeah.
You learn the architectural differences between the Gothic cathedrals and the Haussmann buildings.
You can recite the exact recipe, the flour to butter ratio, for a perfect Parisian croissant.
You know it all.
If someone asks you about Paris at a dinner party, you sound like an absolute expert. You possess a massive amount of truthful, accurate knowledge.
But despite all that knowledge, you are still sitting on your couch in New York.
You haven't gone anywhere.
Exactly. You haven't gone anywhere. Brahma Jana is the moment you step out of the Charles de Gaulle airport.
Oh, wow.
It is the physical sensation of the cool European breeze hitting your face. It is the overwhelming, chaotic sound of the traffic around the Arc de Triomphe. And it is sitting at a tiny bistro table and actually tasting the warm, flaky butter of that croissant.
Tafa Jana is knowing the menu. Brahma Jana is eating the meal.
That's the perfect way to put it.
The menu is a helpful guide, but you cannot eat the paper to survive.
No, you can't. The texts offer a very clear progression for the seeker here. Learn the truth, live the truth, realize the truth.
Learn, live, realize. It implies a danger of getting stuck, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It warns against spiritual materialism.
What's that?
Many people become addicted to Tattva Janat. They read 100 books on mindfulness, they go to silent retreats, they memorize quotes from philosophers, and they build a very sophisticated intellectual identity around being awake.
But they haven't actually realized it.
Right. The moment someone cuts them off in traffic, their ego flares up and they lose their temper completely. They know the map, but they haven't internalized the territory.
They know exactly how the light switch works, but they are still choosing to stumble around in the dark.
Yes. And this brings us all the way back to the tension we discussed in Section 1.
The tug of war.
The balance between human effort and divine grace. Remember the phrase, human effort begins the journey, but divine wisdom completes it.
Oh, wait, I see the architecture of this now.
Right. Your human effort, your rigorous study, your daily struggle to sit on the meditation cushion, your conscious attempts to not snap at your partner and practice selfless love, all of that effort is what gets you to Tafa Jana.
It gets you to the airport.
It puts you on the plane.
But the actual realization, that moment of Brahmajana where the ego completely dissolves and you actually feel your unity with everything, you can't force that.
No, that threshold crossing is the divine grace. That is the traffic clearing up in our GPS analogy.
Wow.
You cannot willpower your way into enlightenment or total peace. You can only prepare the ground, refine your awareness, and then you have to surrender. You sit quietly in the present moment, and you let the realization wash over you when it is ready.
You study the menu, you place the order, but you don't go into the kitchen and scream at the chef. You just wait for the meal. That is incredibly humbling. But I want to play the grounding force here because we have journeyed into some very lofty metaphysical heights.
We definitely have.
If I am listening to this while commuting to a corporate job or, while making breakfast for my kids, I'm thinking, okay, if I reach this state of ego death and realize my absolute unity with the cosmos, do I just quit my job, abandon my mortgage, and move to a cave in the Himalayas to meditate for the rest of my life?
It's the classic stereotype of the detached spiritual hermit.
Right.
But the final source text in our stack provides a beautifully grounded, immensely practical conclusion that shatters that stereotype completely.
Oh, good. I need to pay my mortgage.
We all do. It doesn't advocate for escaping the messy reality of human society. It advocates for engaging with it more deeply, just from a totally transformed center of gravity.
Let's look at the exact wording in the text because it really brings the whole philosophy down to earth. It says, "Life is a precious gift. Live it with joy, gratitude, and purpose while nurturing good values today to create a brighter future for generations to come. Celebrate life, practice good values, and leave a legacy of kindness."
If we synthesize everything we've unpacked today, this conclusion isn't just a nice platitude. It is a logical inevitability.
Walk me through that.
Think about the mechanics. When you stop fighting yourself and develop non-judgmental awareness, your internal suffering drops massively.
Right.
You use that awareness to strip away your defensive ego. When the ego is gone, you transition from Tattva to Brahma. You realize your deep, unbreakable connection to everyone and everything around you.
And if you fundamentally feel connected to everyone, your behavior changes automatically.
Exactly. The natural byproduct of realizing that connection is profound, radiating kindness.
Because you weren't separate anymore.
Right. Because if you truly experience that the person in front of you is a part of the same universal fabric that you are, harming them would be as illogical and painful as your right hand stabbing your left hand.
Wow.
A truly liberated life doesn't want to hide in a cave, naturally wants to leave a legacy of good values. You are no longer acting out of a selfish, neurotic ambition to prove your worth. You are acting out of a joyful overflow of gratitude for the simple fact that you get to exist.
I deeply appreciate how the text redefines the word success in this context.
It's so refreshing.
It says, true happiness comes from enjoying life with a peaceful heart, and true success comes from planting the seeds of good character that inspire future generations.
That's beautiful.
It's a total subversion of what we are fed today. If you look at our culture, success is entirely defined by additive, ego-driven metrics.
Oh, completely.
It's your net worth, the square footage of your house, your title at work, how many followers you have on social media.
It is the trap of self-improvement writ large across society. We measure our worth by how much we have accumulated.
But this philosophy defines success in a way that is accessible to literally everyone right now, regardless of their bank account.
It really is.
True success is just the quiet dignity of planting seeds of good character. It is raising a kind child. It is being a steady, honest friend. It is bringing a calm, non-reactive presence into a highly stressful workplace.
Yes.
It takes this incredibly esoteric spiritual journey and reveals it to be deeply communal and intensely human. You climb the mountain of realization not to stay there, but so you can come back down to the village and be a really good neighbor.
There's an old proverb that fits perfectly here. Society grows great when old men plant trees under whose shade they know they shall never sit.
I love that proverb.
That is the essence of leaving a legacy of kindness. You are doing the work, you are planting the seed of good character, fully knowing you cannot control if or when the tree grows, but you trust the inherent value of the action itself.
Which brings us perfectly full circle right back to our opening point about human effort and divine grace.
It does.
You plant the tree, the universe provides the rain.
It is a complete, holistic system for living.
It really is. Let's briefly trace the arc of what we've uncovered today.
Sure.
We started by confronting our exhausting obsession with trying to micromanage our destiny, realizing that while we have to steer the car, we must gracefully surrender to the traffic of the universe.
Right.
We recognize that the multi-billion-dollar industry of forcefully trying to fix ourselves is often a trap built on self-rejection.
A trap that just causes more anxiety.
Exactly. And we discovered that gentle, non-judgmental awareness, just turning on the light in the messy room of our minds, is the true engine of transformation.
Turning on the light.
By using that awareness to peel away our ego through selfless love and meditation, we bridge the gap between knowing the truth on paper and feeling it in our bones.
From Tatvajana to Brahmajnana.
Yes. And finally, the whole point of this profound inner excavation is simply to engage with the world more joyfully, leaving a quiet, steady legacy of kindness.
It is a remarkable shift in paradigm. It lifts the crushing burden of, I must fix myself, and replaces it with the liberating invitation of, I must observe and understand myself.
And as we close out this conversation, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you go about your day.
Drawing on the core of everything we've explored today, I invite you to think about the one specific flaw or habit that you have been fighting the hardest to eradicate lately.
Yeah, that one thing.
The thing you beat yourself up about the most in the quiet moments. What if that part of you isn't an enemy combatant that needs to be defeated by your willpower?
What if it's not the enemy?
What if it is actually a brilliant, desperate teacher, simply waiting for you to drop your weapons, stop judging it, and turn on the light of awareness so it can finally show you who you already are?
Stay curious, give yourself some grace today, and keep seeking the truth.